Hello and welcome to the next bonus lecture. In this lecture we'll configure the HA cluster using two pFsenses, HA1 and HA2. Also keep in mind that there are few requirements for this to work. First we'll need to connect interfaces from both pFsenses into switches, because basically it is doing a VRRP here with a virtual IP, which here is called an CARP IP, and VRRP here, which here is called also a CARP. So basically in this setup we'll have two CARP IPs, one for WAN portion and one for LAN portion. Also a requirement is to have a HA port or a config sync port between each of them. Also for each segment, for example for the WAN segment, you'll need to have an IP configured on this interface, and a virtual IP which will bounce from one pFsense to another. And this is not so good, because in real life scenarios, if this is a WAN interface and you want to have HA, you will have to configure, you'll have to have three public IP addresses. And this is also valid for the LAN portion, but the LAN portion is not a problem. At the beginning of this lecture, I will show you a trick on how to trick the pFsense and how to configure the HA using only a single public IP address or WAN IP address. So let's start our configuration by configuring HA1 and HA2. The first step would be to set up the HA interface. In our case it is EM2, and we'll configure it with a static IP address. For HA1 I will go with 172.10.10.1/30, and for HA2 I will go with the following IP address, which is 172.10.10.2/30. Okay, let's let the configuration to be applied. The next step is go to Firewall, Rules, and create a rule for the synchronization. The protocol used for synchronization is HTTPS. So create a rule. The source will be the HA address and destination would be HA network. The same thing should be done here. Firewall, rules, HA. The source is HA address and destination is HA network, and the protocol is HTTPS. Click Save, apply changes, and the next step, we go to System, High Availability Sync. So here we'll have to check synchronized states. We will check the synchronized interface, which is HA, and we will enter the address of our peer. Also, in this field and only on this device only, we will add the synchronized config to IP, which is the HA2. Also keep in mind that HA cluster on pFsense works only in active backup manner. So you'll have to choose a active pFsense and the backup pFsense. And in our case, HA1 will be the active pFsense. In this field, we'll add the username configured on the HA2 and the password. We can create special accounts for this, but for the simplicity, I will go with admin password. I will also synchronize these accounts on both pfSenses, and I will select all options to sync. So which means that if I do any configuration in one of these categories, they will be also shared with pfSense HA2. So since I am done with HA1, we can go to HA2, to high availability sync, to select this one, select synchronize interface, enter the IP address on HA interface for pfSense HA1. This field will remain empty. Add the username configured on HA1 and the password. And I will also select all options. So while it is saving, I can go ahead on HA1, go to Firewall, go to Virtual IPs, and here we will create the CARP IP addresses. So we'll create one for the WAN interface, which will get the IP 10.10.10.1, and it is a /24. We'll add a password, and I will use also pfSense here, and it will automatically select a VHID group, and we leave it by default of 1. So next we'll create a CARP for the LAN interface, and this one will have the following IP: 192.168.0.200/24. You can see that VHID group is automatically incremented, and I will save the configuration and apply the changes. Now we can go on HA2 and go to Firewall, Virtual IPs, and just check if the configuration is synchronizing between each of the devices. Also, we can go to Status, to CARP, and we can see that the CARP is already applied here. And for now, they should be also applied on this pfSense. Let's check again the HA interface, if the IP is configured correctly. Here, HA interface here, it's /30 on both ends. Let me go back to high availability sync, just to be sure that the correct passwords were used. And I will save it again. And I'll go here and check if anything is happening after saving it. And I can see the problem here because I choose here HA address and I should use HA network and HA network. So because the communication can be bidirectional, and for now I set up in that way that it is not bidirectional. So let me save this. And now I can go to virtual IPs and we can see that both CARP IP addresses have been added to the configuration. And if you go to CARP on pfSense 2, we saw that it is right now in disabled state. And it is starting to go up and form adjacency. So any minute it should be up. And as you can see here, we have a problem on the WAN side. This one is synchronized correctly, this should be backup, and this one should be a master. But if you check on the WAN side, both of them are masters. So let's check again the WAN configuration on this one. So it's 10.0.0, 10.10.10.2, and this one is 10.10.10.2. So it's not correct, it should be 3. Also, I'll remove these things here, apply changes. Also, I want to remove this stuff here and apply changes. So the changes have been applied. If I go to CARP, I can see that both of them are in backup state. So now that we have configured the CARP, and from the looks of it, it works fine, let's go ahead and log into the cluster using the CARP IP address. And as you can see, we can access it. So basically, we are logged into HA1 right now. And if HA1 will go down, we'll log into HA2 when we'll try this IP address. So now that we have an IP that we can manage our pfSense, we can go ahead and configure some services. And for example, I want to configure DHCP for the LAN interface. But I don't think that this is a good idea, because it might interfere with my home network. But let's try with a very small pool. And for the gateway, we should add 192.168.0.200. And we can go ahead and apply this config and go back here and use IP DHCP. And I hope it will get the correct DHCP server. And it looks like it did. So let me save the config and try to ping 192.168.0.200, and the ping works fine. Now let's go to PC2 and check what IP it have here, and it doesn't have an IP, so I use 10.10.10/24, and for the gateway we'll use 10.10.10.1, because this is the CARP IP for the WAN interface. So the traffic must be send to it. Okay, so which means that I can go ahead now and ping 10.10.10.10, and as you can see the ping is working perfectly. Now it's a great time to perform some tests. So if I go ahead here and I will shut down this interface, we'll lose some of the ping packets, but as you can see it will stabilize immediately. And if you check the CARP, we can see that the CARP mastership from both devices have switched to HA2, and on HA1, as you can see, this one is on backup and this one doesn't know what is happening. I mean, it does know the interface here is down, and if I bring this interface and we'll check our ping is still working. Oh, we lost a few packets, but that is okay. And as you can see, the master have been changed from HA2 to HA1. Another thing that we can check is, for example, we can deactivate this link, and now when I will try to connect to the CARP management, it will redirect me to the HA2. And if we check here individually, we can see this is master and this one is not accessible because the management interface is down. And if we hit resume here, it will do another switchover and the ping will start working perfectly fine. And if I refresh, I am now logged again on the HA1. And if we check the CARP, on the HA2 it's backup and HA1 is master. Okay, that's great, but the downside of this that we have wasted 3 precious public IPs here, and it's for some businesses it is not okay. So in order to, let's say, fix that, there is some things that we can do. First of all, let's go to virtual IPs and configure the WAN CARP. Then let's go to WAN interface and remove any IP configuration, as well as on HA2. Now, the next step, we can go to interfaces, assignment, and we will create a new bridge interface using WAN interface. And here also, we'll go to interface, assignments, to bridge, and we'll create a new WAN interface, or better to say, we'll create a bridge interface from the WAN interface. We'll go back to interface assignments, and we'll create here bridge 0, and on HA2 bridge 0. We'll call it WAN bridge, and for example, we'll give this interface an bogus IP address, doesn't matter. So it will be 172.172.0.1 here. And on the second bridge, then we'll name it one bridge. We'll configure another IP with 0.2. So we'll save it. On both ends. Then we go back to Firewall, virtual IPs, add a virtual IP, add a CARP, add a WAN bridge, and use our IP address /24 and the password, and we give it ID of 1 and hit save and save, and go to HA2 to CARP, and as you can see, this one is in backup and this one is in master. And as you can see, the ping is working, and we used only a single WAN IP address. And we created bridge interfaces because I explained you in other sessions what are bridge interfaces doing. Basically, they will accept any traffic, and basically when the traffic for the 10.10.10.1 IP will be sent to this interface, it will just pass it to the HA to the CARP interface. So this is what I was playing with, and this is what I found that will work for the HA cluster using a single public IP with bridge interfaces. Also keep in mind that when you will create rules or stuff like that, you also need to call the CARP IP that was configured. I mean, as you saw for DHCP, we didn't use the physical IP address configured on the interface, but instead we used the CARP IP. So on all your future configurations, when you should use the LAN IP or the WAN IP address, you should also always use the CARP address. For example, if you want to configure NAT, for example, outbound manual NAT, you will have to do the following. You'll have to use the WAN bridge interface, and here you'll have to select the CARP address for the NAT translation. We'll add it, save it, also put manual NAT, and as you can see, the traffic is still flowing freely. So this is also a thing that you should keep in mind. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one, if there will be any. Bye.